Today, we're diving into a really unique autobiography, one with a twist that, I promise you, you will not see coming. It's called Living with the Lama by Lobsang Rampa.
So, what's the big twist? Well, this isn't just a story about a cat. The author claims this is a story told by a cat. Yep, you heard that right. The entire book is presented as being telepathically dictated by a Siamese named Fifi Greywhiskers. What an incredible idea, right? And this image, this coat of arms from the book, it really sets the scene for us. You've got two Siamese cats holding a candle. It tells you right from the get-go that these aren't just pets in the story. They're the main event, the keepers of some kind of special light. And our narrator? She's one of these amazing cats.
So with that incredible setup, let's jump right into the story and hear it directly from the source herself.
So in her own words, this is how Mrs. Fifi Greywhiskers kicks things off. This isn't just a random collection of memories, you know? She's framing it as a journey, moving from a lifetime of shadows right into the sunlight and warmth of love. It's that classic story of suffering and then salvation, but told from a perspective we almost never get to hear.
To really appreciate that sunshine, we have to understand the shadows. So let's go back to the beginning, to Fifi's early life, and see just how rough her journey started out. And here she is. This is our narrator, Fifi. This is the face behind the voice we're following, a young Siamese cat born into a world that was about to show her just how harsh it could be.
This quote from Fifi, man, it just gets right to the heart of her early suffering. She's talking about her first owner, a woman she calls Madame Diplômée. And for this woman, cats weren't living, feeling beings. They were accessories, possessions. It's such a stark contrast to the life she'd eventually find with the llama.
And we're not talking about simple neglect here. This was a life built on trauma. She was born on this fancy estate, but she was the only one of her litter to survive. She was used as a prop for parties, and when the guests left, she was just forgotten. Locked in an outhouse, sometimes for days without any food. The cruelty was just unbelievable. Her own mother was killed simply for making too much noise.
But even in all that darkness, she found these little moments of escape. Fifi talks about how much she loved trees, how she could climb up and get away from the clumsy, careless humans and just find a little bit of peace. She says the trees would whisper to her about happier days to come.
But those happier days, they were still a long way off. Before she could find them, her struggles were far from over. In fact, they were about to get a whole lot worse.
Her life just becomes this awful series of escalating horrors. After being used for breeding, her kittens just taken away and sold, she's forced to endure two absolutely terrifying journeys. The first one, to America, involved her being drugged and literally packed into a box, shipped like she was just a piece of cargo. And the second journey, to Ireland, that one would be even more catastrophic. I mean, can you even imagine the terror? Being a living, breathing creature drugged and tossed into a box, treated like nothing more than a piece of luggage on a loud, strange airplane? That experience alone would have been deeply, deeply traumatic.
And then, this is the absolute breaking point. During that second trip to Ireland, the box she was in was handled so violently that the impacts actually severed her optic nerves. She was left for dead, and by the time she was found, she was permanently blind. This was the rock bottom, the absolute lowest point in her life of shadows. But just as Fifi's own words promised us, that lifetime of shadows was about to give way to sunlight. This is the moment when her rescue finally begins.
So after being left for dead in Ireland, she's found by a kind man named Sean. And through him, she finally finds her way to the home of Lobsang Rampa, the author, the man she lovingly calls the Lama, or the Gov. This was it. This was the moment her life turned around.
And the transformation is it's staggering. It's night and day. From starving for days to always having food, from sleeping on cold concrete to having her own bed, from being treated like a gimmick to being loved like a real person. And that last detail was so telling. Because she was blind, her new family never moved the furniture without showing her where it was first. The level of care, the thoughtfulness, was just profound.
Fifi really sums it up perfectly right here. Her past wasn't just a bad time. It was a long night that she finally made it through. And now she was living in the sunlight. She was finally home.
But her story doesn't just end with being rescued, because in losing her physical sight, Fifi claims she gained a totally different and maybe even deeper kind of vision.
Okay, so this is where the story takes a really fascinating metaphysical turn. Fifi explains that she learned to see again through what she calls astral travel. She describes being able to leave her physical body and journey in a kind of spiritual form, completely unbothered by her blindness, able to see the world just as clearly as she did before. This is how she says she revisited her old home in France and learned to navigate her new one.
And from this totally unique perspective, Fifi shares some pretty incredible wisdom. She claims that humans actually used to have telepathy, but we lost it because of our devious nature. She points out that we see the world from above, we see the tops of tables, while cats see the world from below. It's such a simple but profound thought on perspective. And she even throws in some practical advice, like how to hold a cat properly so you don't hurt it.
And this brings us right back to the beginning. It was the Lama who encouraged her to share her incredible story, everything from the shadows of Paris to the sunlight of her new home and all the wisdom she picked up along the way. He basically acted as her scribe, typing out the whole autobiography that she dictated to him telepathically.
And here we see her, Fifi in her later years. She's no longer that terrified kitten. She's a respected old granny cat, full of stories, just enjoying a life of peace and warmth and love. A thoughtful figure who has truly seen both sides of the world.
So in the end, whether you take Fifi's story as a literal truth or as this beautiful allegory, it kind of leaves us with this one big question. What are we missing? What kind of empathy could we find if we just tried, even for a moment, to see the world through a completely different set of eyes?